Former President Jacob Zuma has now arrived in court ahead of his ruling in his bid to have lead prosecutor Dianne recused from his corruption trial. The special plea application saw the start of the trial, initially scheduled earlier this year, being pushed back by several months. Zuma wants Dianne off that case because he is of the belief that the prosecutor lacks impartiality and independence. For more on these latest developments, let's bring in Newzroom Afrika's news editor Dianne Hawker, who's live to us now from just outside court. And Dianne, the big development now is that the former president has arrived at court despite what we'd all known to have been the plan just a few hours ago, namely that he won't be in court today because of a communication from the Jacob Zuma Foundation.
Yes, absolutely, Ayanda. And we saw just a few minutes ago that the Jacob Zuma Foundation actually put out a statement saying that the former president will actually be in court. And within maybe 5 minutes of seeing that communication, we actually then realized that his motorcade had actually arrived here at court. And there was a flurry of activity with all of the journalists trying to get from outside through the security at the court into this area where he entered. Now, the former president has gone down this passageway, and we believe he's gone into a holding room before he's actually going to enter the courtroom. As you can also see here, there's quite a number of security officials, some of whom arrived with him when he walked into this court building. He was essentially surrounded by security people. It must have been more than 10. I was still counting as they were passing by. And the former president looking in relatively good health. We know that he is at the moment on medical parole, but he came in here with that contingent of security guards to see obviously what is going to be a very important decision for his case, considering what his legal team has asked for. They're essentially asking for the case to be thrown out of court along with prosecutor Dianne based on an allegation of bias, and Judge Pitt also going to be in the spotlight today as he delivers that decision, because it will essentially decide on the future of this particular case, Ayanda.
And Dianne, there's obviously no telling why there had been an about turn in Zuma's decision to be present in court today, despite what we had known, for instance, as late as last night. But I can only imagine the implications moving forward. For one, the security detail outside might have to be beefed up, given what we know about the kind of activity that typically takes place outside court when the former president is present in person inside the court precinct.
Well, Ayanda, it does seem like the security officials here at court were anticipating such an about turn. When my colleagues Dianne Hawker and the team arrived this morning early for the first 6 a.m. crossing, they actually saw the security forces doing a sweep of the court as they ordinarily would do with the former president being present. Outside, we've also seen barbed wire being put, being placed in the road. Although it hasn't been taken off the vehicles, it's there as a precautionary measure, as well as other police vehicles arriving within the past hour or so. So it seems that there must have been a communication with the security officials here at court. We know that obviously the former president is guarded by members of the SAPS, and that communication is likely to have passed from the Presidential Protection Unit to those situated outside court. So there's definitely some security that's already in place. Still no crowds outside at this point. We're not sure if there's going to be any. And we're hoping also to catch up with Zwanele Manyi, who has indicated that he will be here at court, just to get some clarity as to why there was that about change. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you that interview live within the next hour or so.
Absolutely. Proceedings set to begin at 10 o'clock. Very quickly, Dianne, walk us through perhaps what we're anticipating to hear today and why that kind of information might have even prompted the former president to finally decide to be there in person.
Sorry, if you could repeat that, please, Ayanda. I didn't hear it quite clearly.
Sure. It's just a very quick take, Dianne, if you can, of essentially the thrust of the proceedings inside court today and why this kind of development was perhaps important even for the former president to be there in person.
Well, Ayanda, Judge Pitkun is definitely going to be the star of today's show because all eyes will really be focused on him. There's not expected to be any argument. He is expected to read his judgment along with reasons as to why he has gone in a particular direction. I can understand why the former president may have decided to show up at court today because this really is a pivotal moment in the case. For the past few months, what we've seen is the Zuma Foundation, as well as his legal team, arguing that the prosecutor in this case has a bias towards the former president and that is actually tainting the overall case. That was also the argument that was led here in court to say that, Prosecutor Billy Downer cannot continue to prosecute this case, but also that the NPA cannot continue to prosecute this case because of the alleged bias by Billy Downer. Now, if Judge Pitkun accepts that argument, it will essentially leave the NPA with a major headache as to how do they proceed, if at all, with this case. However, if he doesn't accept that case and goes with the argument led by the NPA, then what we will basically see is the door actually opened for this case to continue after more than 10 years of waiting for it to actually get underway, and then they will actually have to start with the leading of evidence. So an absolutely critical decision coming out here, and if I were the former president, I'd also want to see it with my own two eyes and not watch it on television.
Right. Looks like you and the former president have something in common. Dianne Hawker, we'll leave it there for now at least. Dianne Hawker is Newzroom Afrika's news editor, now inside court as we watch this major developing story unfold. Of course, we'll bring you those proceedings as soon as they begin.